Good evening, everyone. What happens when authority meets arrogance, and power is assumed instead of proven? Today's story isn't just about an illegal transformer placed on private land. It's about entitlement, misuse of authority, and a shocking truth that completely changed the balance of power. And HOA Karen thought she could bend the rules, intimidate a landowner, and walk away without consequences. What she didn't know was simple, yet devastating. I don't just own the land. I own the power company supplying it.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the very moment when what seemed like a simple neighborhood dispute escalated into a matter of law, ethics, and accountability. It all began with an unexpected discovery: a large, unauthorized transformer, installed right on my private land, by none other than an overzealous HOA member, widely known in our community as Karen. Now, you might think, okay, someone installed an electrical device. How bad can that be? But let me tell you, the situation was far more serious than anyone could imagine. First of all, the act itself was illegal. The transformer was installed without any of the necessary permits, approvals, or legal clearances. In any civilized society, infrastructure, electricity, and utility installations are not optional. They are strictly regulated by law. The moment this transformer was placed on my property, it instantly crossed the line from being a mere HOA overreach into criminal trespassing and infrastructure violation. It was an affront to every principle of property rights, municipal law, and community ethics. Imagine waking up one morning, only to find that someone, without your permission, has started constructing a power source on your land. You're stunned. You're furious. But more importantly, you're thinking, this is illegal. I have to act, and I have to act immediately. That is precisely the moment when the situation transitioned from a simple confrontation into a legal battle waiting to happen. It was the kind of act that demands attention from law enforcement, because it wasn't just a question of ownership or HOA authority, it was a blatant violation of every regulation governing electricity, safety, and personal property. What many people don't realize is that transformers aren't toys. They're not just boxes with wires. They carry high voltage, they affect the stability of the electrical grid, and their installation requires precise technical knowledge, certifications, and inspections. An unauthorized transformer on private property can cause fires, power outages, and even endanger lives. In this case, the risk was real and undeniable. And it was precisely why this was not just a matter of HOA rules or neighborhood disputes, it was criminal negligence, with legal consequences written clearly in the law books. As soon as I realized what had happened, I had to document everything. Photographs, timestamps, witness statements, every single piece of evidence was crucial. In legal terms, this constitutes the basis for INFR, or First Information Report, the first step in initiating a criminal investigation. The FIR is not just a formality, it is a declaration that a crime has occurred. It alerts the authorities, it establishes a legal record, and it protects the rights of the aggrieved party, in this case, me, the lawful landowner. The law is designed to protect property owners from unauthorized acts like this. And yet, the audacity of some individuals never ceases to amaze. Karen, emboldened by her perceived HOA authority, thought she could bypass regulations, intimidate property owners, and act without consequence. She failed to recognize that her entitlement had limits. And those limits are enforced rigorously by law. When private property rights are violated, the law is absolute, and the FIR serves as a powerful tool to ensure accountability. Moreover, beyond the immediate legal implications, this incident highlights a broader principle: no one has the right to assume power over what is not theirs. Whether it's a neighborhood association, a corporation, or a government entity, assuming control over someone else's property without permission is a breach of trust, a violation of law, and a moral failure. This is the fundamental lesson that the first keynote emphasizes: the law exists to protect those who respect it, and to penalize those who do not. As I filed the FIR, I realized the magnitude of the situation. It wasn't just about removing a transformer. It wasn't about confronting Karen or her HOA. It was about establishing the undeniable truth: property rights are sacred, laws must be followed, and illegal acts, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, will not be tolerated. The FIR became not only a legal necessity but also a moral statement. It was a declaration that entitlement and arrogance do not supersede law, safety, or common sense. And so, the first keynote of this story is crystal clear: illegal actions have consequences, and when someone oversteps legal boundaries, the law provides immediate recourse. Filing an FIR is the first step, but it is also the most crucial step in ensuring justice, safety, and accountability. It's a reminder to everyone listening that no act of entitlement is above the law, and no illegal installation, no matter how small or seemingly harmless, is acceptable. This is where the story takes its first critical turn, setting the stage for the shocking revelation that would follow, a revelation that would turn the tables completely, exposing not just the illegality of the act but the sheer irony of the situation. But that, my friends, is where the second keynote comes in, a part of the story so unexpected, so ironic, and so powerful that it leaves anyone who hears it completely stunned. Now, let me take you to the turning point of this entire saga, the moment when the situation shifted entirely, when control, authority, and power were revealed in their true form. This is the part of the story that leaves most people stunned, because it isn't just about an illegal transformer or a misguided HOA member. It's about the ultimate irony, the profound twist, and the undeniable truth of who truly holds power. For weeks, Karen and her HOA acted with full confidence. They assumed they could install equipment, make decisions, and assert control over a property they had no legal claim to. They believed entitlement, authority, and procedural loopholes were on their side. They were wrong, spectacularly wrong. And the revelation of their error is what makes this story unforgettable. You see, the transformer she installed wasn't just sitting idle. It was connected to a grid, it was part of a network, and in theory, it should have been powering utilities. But there's one small detail that completely flipped the narrative. I am the owner of the power company supplying this very grid. Every line, every circuit, every approval she ever thought she needed, I controlled it. And she had no idea. Not a clue. Imagine the moment when someone realizes that the power they thought was theirs to manipulate is actually under someone else's control. That is exactly what happened. Karen, in her typical overconfident manner, expected no resistance. She assumed the power would flow, the transformer would operate, and her HOA's little plan would succeed. But the moment she realized that the power company itself was under my ownership, her confidence evaporated instantly. It's a rare feeling, one that is difficult to convey in words. There's shock, disbelief, and a dawning recognition that everything you assumed is suddenly invalid. Karen's assumptions, her sense of entitlement, and her perceived authority were all exposed as fragile illusions. She had walked boldly onto someone else's land, attempting to assert control over resources she could not possibly govern. And in one shocking revelation, the entire balance of power shifted, from her arrogance to my absolute authority. Now, let's pause and think about the implications. When someone believes they have control and they do not, it's more than embarrassing. It's dangerous. Misuse of power, especially over utilities, infrastructure, and public resources, has consequences far beyond simple legal liability. In this case, her every move, every decision, every assumption could have been immediately overridden, corrected, or nullified. And the best part, she had no idea until the moment she faced the reality. This revelation also speaks volumes about responsibility. Power is not just about installation, control, or ownership on paper, it's about legal authority, operational knowledge, and the ability to enforce it. Karen lacked all three. She had assumed the role of authority without understanding the systems she was tampering with. I, on the other hand, had the legal standing, technical knowledge, and operational control. That is the fundamental difference between entitlement and true power. Her reaction was priceless. Confidence turned into panic, assertiveness turned into hesitation, and entitlement dissolved into realization. She finally understood that authority is not a title, it is not a perception, and it is certainly not a self-assigned role. Authority is backed by law, backed by control, and backed by responsibility. And when you overstep, when you try to assert power where it doesn't belong, the consequences can be immediate, dramatic, and unavoidable. What followed was a lesson in irony and humility. Every plan Karen had made, every assumption of control, every imagined advantage she believed she possessed, all of it crumbled. She didn't just fail to gain authority, she realized she had been challenging someone who literally controlled the very system she thought she was manipulating. It's the kind of revelation that teaches a lifelong lesson about entitlement, oversight, and respect for law and ownership. Moreover, this moment wasn't just about exposing Karen. It was a profound statement about power dynamics. Control is not earned through audacity, intimidation, or procedural ignorance. Control is earned through ownership, authority, responsibility, and knowledge. And in that instance, every aspect of control, the legal rights, the technical power, and the operational authority, rested entirely with me. Karen's transformer, her HOA's ambition, and her sense of dominance were meaningless in the face of true power. As I observed the situation unfold, I realized the story had evolved beyond legalities and confrontations. It had become a lesson, a cautionary tale about the arrogance of assumed authority. It highlighted how individuals often overestimate their power, underestimate the rights of others, and fail to understand the systems they interfere with. Karen learned, in the most direct way possible, that true control is undeniable, and trying to challenge it without understanding the full scope is a mistake with immediate consequences. And so, the second keynote is clear: entitlement and arrogance crumble instantly when confronted with true authority. Legal ownership, operational control, and factual power are not negotiable, and they cannot be bypassed by assumption, intimidation, or ignorance. This is the moment where the story reaches its most dramatic, unforgettable climax, when the tables turn, the power shift is undeniable, and the lesson resonates far beyond the immediate confrontation. In conclusion, this revelation was not just about Karen or her illegal transformer. It was about a universal truth. No one can assert control over what they do not own, no one can manipulate systems they do not understand, and no act of entitlement is stronger than the combination of legal authority, operational knowledge, and actual power. Karen's lesson was harsh, ironic, and public, but it was necessary. And it serves as a reminder to everyone listening that true power cannot be assumed, it must be earned, recognized, and respected.